Hi everyone, I welcome you all to our tech podcast series, and I am Chavi, your podcaster of the day. And today we are yet again back with our amazing speakers who come and talk about some amazing industry things. Now you might be thinking, who's the guest today? We have Ankan Andhikari with us. He is currently the CTO at NowPurchase, and also while talking about him, I'll just say one thing that currently he is heading the metallurgy, software, and the product team at the same time. Okay, so yeah, hi Ankin, how are you doing? I welcome you to our podcast series.
I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. How you doing, Chavi?
I'm also doing great. Now, before starting, would love to know how you started your journey and what all technologies that you love the most being a CTO.
So yeah, I think so. I've been born and brought up in the hills of Shillong, so I think that's an exciting place to grow up in, right? And yeah, so Shillong is like a very chill place, right? It's away from the hustle and bustle of the cities. Probably not now anymore, but right. What has been really interesting is I had a great education in a Catholic school, and yeah, and somewhere down the line, I got interested in computers because my dad's office was just below my house, and I remember my first computer was brought in. It was a Pentium 120 megahertz. It had 120 megahertz of processing speed, and it had 8 MB of RAM. I'm not sure if these numbers process with anybody, right? And yeah, I started tinkering out around with it. I started tinkering around with the fax machine. I don't know if people remember all of that, right? And I got interested. I became the guy, who'd always be interested in doing computers. So then I was like, hey, let's get into game designing because I was very fascinated with games, right? But what happened was like dad was like, beta engineering kar lo, right? So then I had to do all the shebang of preparing for IIT, this, that, and all. Somehow I cracked the Comet K and got into Ramaya in Bangalore, right? And I started my journey there. Basically, I've always been fascinated as a programmer, and but yeah, problem solving was very interesting. So then, I quit my first placement job that I got. For 2 years, I worked in a company in Bangalore. And after that, I was like, screw this, let's start up. So then two of my friends were there. They were from the Young India Fellowship in Delhi. Came down. I started up my first startup there, right? And this was in the education space. I was very passionate about education and teaching, right? So I always wanted to ensure that everybody gets to learn and everybody has a mentor. I always felt that I lacked a mentor in my life. I've been like, wanting to get mentors, right? So yeah, while all these programming escapades, then I started building a mentor based learning platform. And yeah, I'll not get too much into that, but basically did that for 3 years, and I had to sell my dream. And we sold it to upgrad. So we were the first acquisition of upgrad, right? And dil tod ke acquisition ho gaya. And theek hai, but everybody says that acquisition is great, but it's a dream, man. I mean, so yeah, and yeah, so then that's why the tag serial entrepreneur comes in, right? Because the more startups you build, you get to learn a lot, right? And yeah, I've always been very passionate about the design of programs per se, and how technology can be used to delight people, right? And so that's the journey that happened. And then I met Naman here in Now Purchase, and then we overhauled the entire vision of the company, and then we are in this exciting journey right now. So yeah.
That was very amazing, and also I would say the journey has been a roller coaster for you. And I must say one thing, that when it comes to number, techies love that. Whenever it comes to techie, they always say that, okay, how what's the GB, how much RAM, and a lot of stuff. So the techies
Yeah.
can surely be relating to that point. Now, moving with that, if I talk about Now Purchase, so it's a very the domain and the perspective is so different and so unique. So in that case, would love to know how it all started, and like how, like what all are the technologies which are like taking place in the whole now purchase working.
When we talk about what we're trying to do at Now Purchase, in fact, even when we were fundraising, and we kind of found out nobody understands this industry at all. Okay, it is very peculiar. Okay, it's a one for okay. I would have tried to make you guess this. The gourmet market, maybe, I don't know, is maybe $5 billion or something like that, whatever it is. But we're talking about metal manufacturing, the backbone of metal manufacturing. That's a $140 billion industry in India. That's not world, bro. Like, this is India. It's $140 billion in India.
It's so much, it's so huge, I would
Yeah,
say.
it's a number that nobody understands. I can't. I'm throwing this number at you, and I can't understand, right? Because, see, what is it? Metal exists in every form, everywhere, right? And the thing is that somehow all the money has been flowing into, basically, see, all the talent flows where all the money flows, and all the research flows there. And there's this very common meme, okay, that um, there's some very high paid AI engineer there who's optimizing whether you're going to click on an ad or not, right? So, this is kind of proof of that meme, okay, because this is a major industry which is the backbone of the country's economy, right? And it is completely neglected by entrepreneurs, right? And literally, we know that because 80 to 90% of our calls with all the venture capitalists, or even with the talent pool that we bring in, is explaining to them why this industry exists and why is it there. It's right down there in the backbone, and nobody knows it, right? And so, honestly, like, this is an industry that I had absolutely no clue of, right? And in fact, basically, when I started this off with Naman, basically the current version of Now Purchase, we called it Now Purchase version 2.0. It just happened to be that his family is from the manufacturing space, and it's a very reputable manufacturing company, right? And that's where we kind of started seeking all the knowledge that was coming in from there, right? And then we understood that, hey, look, this industry is quite interesting, right? It's quite interesting. It's an untapped industry. Like, manufacturing of metals seems so obvious, like everything, okay, right from the metals on the grill of your windows, to the metals on tanks, to the metals and alloys in your car, right? It's there everywhere. But very few people kind of understand that this entire backbone is basically the entire economy. Like, it's such a big part of the economy, right? And so, yeah, it was literally like, your question being, how did it start, right? And to keep things short, we brainstormed a lot of things, very very fancy ideas, where you could upload a 3D model into this laptop computer, whatever it is. We would render it, and then somewhere in the network it would be dispatched, and it would get manufactured and come to you. You could, like, be this democratized manufacturer of things, right? A designer could just get things manufactured, and we would tap into the manufacturing capacity of the entire country, right? So, yeah, and then later we're like, hey, you know what, हम लोग का family business में, नमन का family business में foundries है, and doesn't look like there's any companies working there. Why don't we just start there, right? And yeah, that's where things started.
That's
So, yeah.
actually great. And also, like as I mentioned, that what all technologies are involved there? Because, like, when it comes to this whole industry, I guess that there are a lot of technologies. It's not just AI, ML, or the simple technologies which are involved. All the emerging technologies are there.
Like, okay, like, you understand, okay, this is an interesting, the word technology, right? I think we use it a lot. We use this word technology a lot, right? And so I'll give you a very interesting observation, okay? Like, an electric vehicle is technology, okay? बट जो हम लोग उबर में हम लोग अपना डीजल वाला गाड़ी में जाते हैं, हम लोग उसको टेक्नोलॉजी नहीं बोलते हैं. the app को हम लोग टेक्नोलॉजी बोलते हैं. So you understand, it's interesting culturally how technology is being used. You get it? So anywhere, okay, anywhere which is it's literally far off from the standard way of doing things, we start calling it technology, right? So that is one very interesting, it's if it's far off from what is happening. Okay. And now yeah, again, so I'll tell you what fundamentally what are we doing, and I'll tell you, what fundamentally what these people are doing. Basically, there is a huge need of metal alloys in different applications in the industry, which is in the railways, transportation, to basically automotive. Like, there's a huge requirement that is there, right? And what are manufacturers? Fundamentally, what are manufacturers? Manufacturers transform, material from one phase or one state to another state, right? You take a bunch of raw materials and then you do some magic with it, and then it comes out on the other end as some finished product, right? Now this entire thing is what is covered by engineering design. Engineering design is basically taking the market requirements, taking the constraints of economies, and transforming matter from one place to another place, right? Now technically there would have been only one metal in the world. There would have been only one metal in the world if economies was not a problem. Okay, because I don't want to use the same material for my tank and my window grill, because I want it to be less expensive. Therefore I have to develop so many thousands of alloys, right? And now to develop so many thousands of alloys, there is a fundamental thing that is happening there: transforming matter from one state to another using energy, right? And energy means chemical reactions, right? So what our technology does here is we are able to empower the metal manufacturer, right, by giving them the tools and the technology so that they can simulate this manufacturing process, and they can efficiently produce their final alloy. Because it's an engineering problem, it's not a problem of art, it's not a problem of only science. Engineering means we want to have the highest output with the most minimum throughput, right? So our technology is to simulate all of that. So fundamentally, transforming matter from one state to another state has a lot of chemical reactions and a lot of metallurgy that is involved, that needs to be modeled. Now as an engineer, you won't model the entire world. Right now I am breathing in a factory, and basically that is affecting the environment. I'm not going to model that. I'm only going to model the most important and influencing factors, right? So now so as you say, to answer your question about what technology is involved, first, any kind of technology that models the base layer chemistry and the metallurgical transformations, right? Now because it's an engineering design, there has to be optimization models. You want to manufacture 600 things in 1 second. So now there is an optimization challenge. So there's a lot of operations research layer here, and there's a lot of optimization algorithms here, right? And simulation that is happening. And now obviously the technologies that are there, I mean, obviously if there's anywhere there is data, there is scope of AI to come in. So you put in the machine learning models out there, and you understand, like, it's not necessary that you use ML everywhere. I mean, if there is a place where there is statistical extrapolation that will work, so use that, right? And the thing is that some places do not require so much amount of data. So you'll see that, uh, a lot of people are talking about how can I get the maximum out of AI by having the least amount of data, right? So now that is very important in a factory, right? Because data is a massive challenge to get clear and filtered data, because the processes are very age old. And that problem happened here, right? And that problem happened here in the industry because of the British invasion. I'll tell you something very important. Before the British were here, right, we were the pioneers in steel. You can Google it out. There is something called as wood steel. It's called Damascus steel. we would export it to the rest of the world. It was famous all across the world. People from Persia, people from everywhere across the world would import wood steel from India. And then we were brought into darkness. And the problem is, this entire industry is very, very far behind, right? So now the technological layers and answering your main question, what are the technologies that are there that we are making sure that it's targeting this entire problem statement, is that whatever tools and interfaces you need so that you can run the engineering process smoothly. A lot of code, a lot of statistical extrapolation, a lot of optimization models.
That was very, very amazing and insightful, I would say. Now, moving with the next thing, I wanted to know one thing from you, that, like, what's the future aspect? And also, when it comes to your industry, is it a blue ocean still? Since metallurgy, when it comes to metals, it's a very huge market, as you mentioned. It's the numbers are mind blowing, and it's very like impossible to understand the numbers that comes into the picture. But like, are you in the blue ocean, or like, is it untapped market? How other people are working in this one?
So it's interesting, like, I think this is common for B2B businesses, like B2B, or in business to business kind of startups, right? They target these massive SMEs, or a lot of, they target a part of the value chain, right? And there is like too much to do in that value chain, right? So direct competition is very little, right? There are other companies, like if you look at Zetwork, who are basically doing manufacturing of fabricated parts, right? If you look at off business, they are basically selling like a bunch of materials. And but the thing is that everybody is working at a different layer of the value chain, right? So for example, if Zetwork is doing manufacturing, and they're going to use a kind of a metal manufacturer to get their level of manufacturing done. Because see, it's when you build a bicycle, right? The person who's building the tire, the rubber, the chain, and all of those, there are different manufacturers in the chain. They go through that entire chain, and then you have the finished cycle that comes out, right? So I would say that people are working at very different layers in that chain. So yeah, and we at this level, nobody is really targeting this as a problem statement for a fast growing startup. And honestly, yeah, we are the first movers, we're not going to be the last. As soon as there is enough spark in this industry, people are going to come in. So yeah, we are the first. It is a blue ocean now, but not for long.
That was very amazing. I loved it. And I would be happy to conclude this podcast with any of the three learnings that you wanted to share till now when it comes to this metal industry.
Okay, so the learnings in the metal industry, okay, for us, I think first and foremost is there is a huge amount of resistance, and there is a huge amount of uh, desire for people to not change the way that they're doing things. You have to understand that people have been manufacturing the same way for 40-50 years, right? This is, and if you look at the general history of metallurgy, right, the first alloy that we made of bronze was 7,000 years ago. Okay, that is 7,000 years ago. Okay, so that's how old the metallurgical industry is in general. So the thing is that there is a huge desire of that not changing, right? So it's very important. The learning is to tap into those psychological biases, and importantly understand what is that one thing that's going to let them open up and adopt technology. Because we really badly need to grow. We can be at 5x productivity that is there, right? I think that is the primary learning, right? Number two, learning, and again, if you talk about our personal learnings, right, is there are there's a lack of interest in this industry, right? There's a lack of interest. We really need the entire talent pool coming into this, right? We really need the entire talent pool to be coming into this. Okay. So,
Second,
and
second,
yeah, pardon?
second point, say.
Okay. Okay, yeah. So we need a lot of talent pool to come in, right? And the third thing that is a learning, right, is never trust how cool your simulations and optimizations are until practically how they pan out in the furnace, right? So that is really important.
That was really great, and I personally love the learnings as well. Like, I also never thought that that much deep this metal industry is, and it is a huge knowledge, and obviously it's a very huge industry, to be honest. This is the very first time I got to know about this, so I personally loved it. With that note, thank you so much, Ankan, for joining in. It was really, really great hosting you today for the podcast, and I have like added the Ankan's LinkedIn and the socials in the description below. If you also want to know more about this industry or now purchase, you can reach out to him. And with that note, thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, Avi. Thank you for hosting.